How much trouble are we in as a nation? And do we even want to find our way out?
I don't think the American dream is functioning.
The common ground is gone.
It is a little scary right now.
There's one side that needs to get away with lying in order to keep pushing their agenda.
We're not working towards the same goal. We're just trying to promote our team.
On the current trajectory, I think things will get worse before they get better.
This podcast continues to ask a pretty simple but potentially uncomfortable question. Are we too far gone? In this episode, I'm going to introduce you to the next voices in this project. These folks aren't politicians, they're not pundits. You're going to meet people from the American political right, left, and center. You're going to get a hint of their values and a little bit about their political beliefs. These are the folks just like us who are wrestling with who we are, what the nature of the nation is, and where we're going. When we talk about the right in American politics, it's easy to collapse a whole lot of people into one basic archetype of what it means to be of the right. The first voices you're going to hear from don't consider themselves radicals or revolutionaries. They're the kinds of people who believe that government requires competence, problem solving. They're the kind of people who don't believe that disagreement is inherently betrayal. Their politics are shaped far less by ideology, and rather by things like faith, family, friends, community, and a sense that the United States, good, bad, and everything in between, is a good place, and a place that ought to be preserved.
Elizabeth. And when we were children, we would say we grew up in the United States of America because I was born in California, grew up in Wyoming, and graduated in New York, and then went to college in Utah. And now I'm in Oregon. Now I'm the homemaker. This is me, and I've been here raising my children and now I'm raising my grandchildren. I am definitely on the conservative side, say. I have friends who are far right, don't agree with them. And I didn't start out very politically minded at all. My parents were conservatives and I followed suit. Family and the faith value system fits the conservative leaning a lot better. I happen to be a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Once I feel heard, I can stop arguing. I can ask more questions.
I go by Tim to most people. I grew up in Bozeman, Montana, but have spent a lot of my life in Texas, so kind of split between Montana and Texas. I am currently a executive for a construction company here in Bozeman. And my dad and I started the company. So we've been doing it, almost 12 years now. All of my values come from my walk with Christ. I've grown up, my dad was a pastor growing up, and so I've been raised in the church. But probably around college, I decided to really dive into my own walk, where it has shaped how I treat people, how I view my moral compass, how I treat my family. Say I lean conservative. I probably, if I were to choose something, it'd be more libertarian, like a small government type perspective, but leaning conservative. Yeah, I am very aware of my inadequacy of knowledge in areas. And so it would be really prideful of me to say that somebody else doesn't have a better perspective than I do. And so I love hearing other people's perspectives because it helps me get to a more solid foundation.
Dave, and I grew up in Eugene, and I'm retired now. I left Eugene and went to Oregon State University and immediately entered the Naval ROTC program. And in the Naval ROTC program, I took the Marine option. And then I subsequently spent 28 years, just under 28 years in the Marine Corps as an infantry officer. Then I retired and went to work for a defense consulting company for a while. And then I went to work in the Oregon State Legislature for two sessions, working as a budget analyst. And then most recently, I completed 4 years as a Jackson County Commissioner. I consider myself an American. I consider myself going back to the Declaration of Independence. I am a Christian. I go back to biblical principles that I've learned. Not necessarily. I'm not a person that takes everything in the Bible literally or anything like that. But I was raised by a good Christian mother who taught me charity and hope and peace and faith and all these other kinds of things. Those kinds of things. And I look at what the founding fathers came up with, and they're talking. I do consider myself a classical liberal, in the sense that classical liberalism is, in fact, would be considered more conservative in the political arena. I do consider myself a moderate conservative, and so I tend toward ideas of in terms of I believe in the markets. I think that's far and away the best way to run things. I believe in majority rule. But I also believe in also that I think our founding fathers made it very, very clear that they understood that majority rule can also lead to the tyranny of the 51%. Look, we've instituted government for a couple of reasons. One of them is the protection of our rights. And to make sure that we do those, the rights don't come from the government. The government is there to protect our rights.
My name is Dimitra, and I grew up in Clearwater, Florida, and I am an organization development consultant. I live in Oregon, and I've become a Western girl. Humility is possibly my top value, cultivating humility. Also, being open-hearted is very important to me, and acceptance is very important to me. I started out on that spectrum being on the left, for sure. Like, unquestionably, I was on the left side of that spectrum, and I voted Democrat, was a registered Democrat for a long time. And then over time, I changed, and life changed, society changed. We've all gone through a lot of, I think, seen a lot of things in the last 10, 15 years, right? And so now I think I've actually come back more to my roots, which are more conservative. So I lean conservative.
My name is Deborah, and I'm originally from South Alabama, but my dad was in retail, so we moved a lot. Most of my childhood was spent in North Carolina. We moved to South Georgia when I was a freshman in high school. And then I've pretty much stayed around in this area, except for the short time that I went to graduate school in DC. And then I got married, and we were in the military. So there was 5 years there, or 6 years that I was gone. I'm a Christian person. So everything from me comes directly from above. That's where my life is focused and centered. I tend to like to be in the middle, just because I don't like to be pigeonholed. I don't want anybody to tell me I have to be one thing or the other. I'd rather be independent.
Do you find that on balance, more of those things feel better on a right or conservative side overall?
Yeah, overall.
The next voices you're going to hear from are from a different part of the political right. These individuals often refer to themselves as things like populists or constitutionalists. Their views are often shaped less by ideology and more by concerns about whether people in power act with integrity, and whether the systems, as they see it, ought still be trusted, and if those systems still act for the benefit of the American people.
My name is Rocky. I live in Orlando, Florida. I am a rainmaker in that I assist organizations, individuals, in businesses and enterprises, sometimes political. I help make their dreams come true. Every man, woman, child I encounter while I'm alive, whether that's through medium of telecommunications or at the store, in a place of work, on the street when I'm driving, every human I encounter is a divine, it has a spark of the divine. And this cuts through every label, orientation, nationality, religion. Some of the main accomplishments of MAGA OG, as I like to call it, or in honor of President Trump, is some of the undeniable milestones that have been achieved, David, is President Trump has put into sequence an amazing outlay of physical capital for future United States manufacturing. I do give President Trump great credit. I appreciate how, and you can see even today on the job, he is pouring out his physical life for us in an honorable way. I think what Americans want at the core is leaders who care.
Yeah, my name is Ed, and I now live in Arizona. And currently I'm retired, but may go back to work. Life in the dental field as a sales rep for merchandise and for equipment and also technology. Even what it says in the Bible, let your yes be yes and your no be no. So don't play games with people. I don't like being played games with. I feel diminished, disrespected, dishonored by an individual, a leader, you name it, lying to us. Why some people think that's okay, can't even imagine, except that they think very little of everybody but themselves. Very much at home with the conservative, populist, constitutionalist movement, but not the conservative movement in and of itself. If the burden is on me to love you, I'm going to find a way to love you.
My name's Andy. I grew up in North Florida. My parents were college professors. They taught for 30 years, and before that, they taught for 10 years. In high school, they loved teaching World War II era people. I was adopted when I was 5 years old. I just had the best parents. They loved animals and people and just salt of the earth people. You know, they kind of shook your hand, they meant it, and I had a really blessed childhood in small town. Grew up, you rode your bike everywhere. So number one, hard work. Number two, do the right thing, and whatever you say you're going to do, let your word be that. And then the other is do more than expected, under promise, over deliver. Those would probably be the main things. I will say this: my faith's really important. If it was the 70s, I'd be leaning left. I would be considered somewhat liberal. That's because I believe we ought to have help with education. Maybe I believe in free trade schools. We should help with colleges. We're one of the few countries that don't. We should have interest-free loans. I believe in helping people. I don't think, even if there's fraud, I mean, you got to root it out, right? But you still got to help. You don't want people going hungry, right? So I lean that direction. But on the rest of it, I lean to the right.
Let's see. My name is Mike. I live in Austin, Texas. I have been retired. I am back at work again, temporarily, I hope. Spent almost 40 years in the semiconductor industry. Prior to that, 6 years in the U.S. Navy. Self-reliance and individual responsibility and integrity. I do a lot of volunteer work, so I would say some type of social awareness. I think it's evolved. If it's evolved, I've moved a little farther out on the branch towards the right side, towards conservative. Mostly, one of the things I mentioned earlier is individual responsibility. If you do something, you're responsible for it. Don't try to find somebody else to blame. Don't say it was my great-grandfather's fault or your great-grandfather's fault because of this. No, I did it. You know, I wrecked my car. I ran a red light. Okay, but yeah, the officer, I'm really in a hurry. Well, you ran a red light. Take the ticket and get going. All you got to do is pay $150. But own up to it. Very conservative. I have a few aspects of my personality and my beliefs that are a little more liberal, but I would say I'm more libertarian more way out on the right-hand side of, and probably a little further out on the branch than a lot of people.
The next voices we're going to hear from come from what we might think of as the political center. These are folks who often refer to themselves as politically homeless, folks who really dislike the notion of labels at all or feel like they're on the outside looking in. These folks tend to believe that we all want the same things, and that it's just a matter of figuring out a way to integrate the potential solutions of the left and the right to actually get to solving problems.
My first name is Marla. I grew up in Los Angeles. Then via Paris, France, I got to Ashland, Oregon. And what I do is I started in 2017 doing work of bridging the political divide or depolarization. And I have a little organization called Building Bridgers. Some people will say right and left have different values. And I kind of veer towards they have the same values often, but they have different ways of getting there. A really core value for me is seeing everyone as a human being. I started out on the blue side, and then when I started getting more educated, I would say, I actually am politically homeless now. We're wired to be attorneys, arguing for our side. What about if we came to debates with the goodwill of saying, we want to understand what's going on here better, not just for my side to win.
My name's Jameis. For the most part, I grew up in Medford, Oregon, and I am a firefighter by trade, really treating people the way that you want to be treated, like the golden rule, right? Like I don't want someone to treat me poorly. And if I'm treating someone the same way, like I'm treating someone with respect, I care about them. God, I hate to explain it this way, but I've heard it explained this way is just don't be an asshole, treating a person like a person. And that it doesn't matter what it is. And really, going along with that is like active listening, like actually engaging with someone, listening to what they're saying, and actively thinking about what they're saying, not just like hearing what they're saying. I would definitely put myself outside looking in. Like, well, I see this side and I see this side, but you guys don't see that for whatever reason. And I don't really have a side.
So my name is Amy. I grew up in Federal Way, Washington, very, very middle class, urban outside of Seattle. I graduated, went to college at Southern Oregon State College at the time. It's changed to university now. I just fell in love with it down here and stayed. I really have a solid sense of justice. I feel like, when justice isn't served, it makes me angry. I used to identify as Republican, but there's so much craziness going on that side of the spectrum that I haven't voted Republican for the last couple of elections. But then on the other hand, there's also ideas on the Democratic side that I'm like, wow, no, that's I feel like most people are like me. They fall like probably somewhere really close to the middle. And I feel like that's the majority of people. I just feel like we have some really loud extremes.
Our next guests either lean a little bit to the left or are notably of the left. Not all of them agree with one another, but I think in most cases, all of them tend to agree with the idea that our nation works best when it's caring for those who need it the most.
Yeah, my name is Jeff Williams. I grew up in Spokane, Washington, actually just outside in a small farming community nearby here. I left after high school with the intention of never returning and traveled around the West Coast a bit and overseas a little bit, and then ended up back in Spokane when I had a family and a couple of small children. And what brought me back here was an opportunity to work at the community college here and just the opportunities in higher education to work with students in this area. So I'm currently an interim dean of one of our instructional divisions here. I've been involved in education for most of my adult life too, and I think that for me another huge value is the value of learning, and that doesn't have to be a formal education, but it's continuing to learn and grow throughout life. I think that we all have the ability to continue learning and growing, and it doesn't necessarily take place in a classroom. It's not even always the best place for it. I hate labels. So, I'll start with that and I'll say in my adult lifetime, I have voted for presidential candidates in 4 different political parties. So if that gives any indication of my loyalty anywhere, maybe now more of my politics or votes would seem like they're on the liberal end, but it really depends on the issue and really depends on the candidate. I have never in any election voted for all one party.
My first name is Chris, and a little bit about myself. At heart, I am hopelessly creative and enjoy stories. African American, respect other people. And this comes from my Christian values that everybody is made in the image of God. Just by you being a person, you have a vast amount of value. When you sit there and you listen, I think everyone feels valuable. I would say definitely more towards left-leaning, kind of like as we understand them in this country. I would definitely say more left-leaning for sure. Yeah, that's definitely the way I would go. I used to be more right-leaning. And I think that had a lot to do with the school I was going to at the time and closer friends and all of that kind of stuff.
My name is April. I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, and I'm a teacher. Things that I value include taking care of others, especially those who don't have access to resources, opportunities, that, we are caring about others more than ourselves. Another core aspect of who I am is to be, again, conscious of my own kind of place within society. And I also value education. I'll say that too. I'm a teacher, so I definitely fall in the progressive camp. And how I would define that is I think people should have access to healthcare. People should have access to education. People should not go into debt because they get sick. People should not have to worry about where their next meal is coming from. The rich should be taxed more.
Andrew, I grew up in the South Bronx of New York. I'm a hobbyist part-time and security guard full-time. I think that my values are that we as a country should be working towards fulfilling everyone's needs and letting people strive for what we used to refer to as the American dream, live your best life, which I don't feel is commonly said anymore. And I don't know where this belief came from. I guess I just grew up with somewhat high sense of morality where I felt like everyone should like justice and stuff like that. I think I would personally identify as a democratic socialist or far leftist as well. Capturing the means of production for the workers, giving them more leeway into like into what their money is making for corporations, as well as making the government more accountable towards providing for its citizens.
As you listen to the guests throughout this season, I'm guessing there's going to come moments where you're going to disagree deeply with some of them. There's going to be moments where you really agree with others. But ultimately, the real key here is to make certain that we slow things down, that we listen to people. You're going to see guests from across the entire political spectrum. And I think what you're going to find, as you might have found last season, was that even in the moments where you disagree the most with some people, you'll find that the perspectives are often brought forth by good heads and good hearts, and people who deeply want the best for our nation, even if there are moments where we disagree deeply about how we get there. My name is David Combs. This is Nobody's Side Season 2. Thanks for joining.